Hello and welcome to yet another video by me. This is Landscape of My Mind Part 2, and I'll put a link to Part 1 in the info box below. So what am I going to do on this one? Well, I'm going to do sort of a little bit of everything on it. I'm going to change the sky, I hope to make it a lot more dramatic. Possibly with a leaning towards a William Turner type sky. And then once I've done that, I'm going to do a few little tricks on the landscape. Now, some of you won't like what I'm going to do to this because I'm sure there are people who will look at this painting and think, well, yeah, it's not the most colourful painting on the planet, but it wasn't meant to be. Just after sort of basic structure, a little bit of composition working out, and what else? Yeah, feeling of a little bit of drama, but I want to add some more colour to it and make it hopefully a lot more interesting. I'm sure it's dry enough. It's been a bit of I think probably 3 weeks since I uploaded this, so it's dry enough for my purposes at the moment, which is just a demo. You know, the painting may not be kept, don't know. Maybe, it depends. I mean, if it comes out really nice, then possibly I will keep it, but if not, it doesn't matter. I'll just get rid of it or paint over it or something, but we'll see. Now then, my palette. Shall I show you my palette? Maybe you'd like to see my palette. I've spent ages getting the camera in position for this, but I'll give you a quick look. I've got some old paint on that paper palette to the left there. Some of it's a little bit dry. It's been hanging around for quite a while, but I'm going to maybe use the palette knife and do the mixing over here on the glass. And obviously the bits of this that are too dry, you know, where you've got a bit of skin on the paint, I'll just sort of push them to the side. That's it really. I might give you a few views of the palette as I'm painting a bit later. Oh, let's just run through the colours I've got here. I've got Japanese red, primary yellow, royal blue, phthalo blue, and titanium white there. But that's not all I'll use. I'll probably stick in a little bit of, I don't know, maybe some ultramarine. And what else should we do? You know, maybe even a little bit of red ochre in the sky, because that can look quite interesting. So as I said, I'm going to start with the sky. It's quite an interesting sky. This is done with my my usual method, which you can see on pretty well any one of my videos. But it involves putting down a colour. This sort of greyish greeny colour here is sap green and red ochre, and then smeared onto the board to give you this sort of reasonably flat sort of tone. There's a little bit of blue chucked in there as well in a few places, and then it's blended. And then I apply white with a palette knife, and then I go over it with a dry brush to get that nice cloudy effect. As regard to the feeling of movement in the sky, that's just something that comes with practice, and believe me, you will get the hang of it eventually. So this sort of first structural painting allowed me to get a feeling for perspective. So I can sort of paint things here on the landscape and then just sort of keep toning them back until they recede into the distance. Obviously the bits where I didn't blend it, where I've got these dark areas, they come forward a bit, and then right down the bottom, that's also what you get. And I'll show you what I'm going to do on the landscape a little later. But first things first, as they say, let's get some oomph into the sky. So I've got, I think, what are we going to do? Let's try a bit of royal blue. Royal blue with some oil shoved into it. Now this lump of blue here has been sitting around on the palette for a while, so it's got a few lumps in it. But you know, lumps don't necessarily mean problems. Depends on your take on life, I suppose. The odd lump isn't going to hurt. In fact, what I'm going to do, I'm not just going to do blue, I'm going to put some red in it because I just like that effect. Gives you a quite interesting blue. The actual royal blue straight from the tube may be just a little bit too too overpowering, I think. So let's just start off doing our usual thing where we muck the painting up. Let's just make a bit of a mess. Just shove a bit of paint there. You could do this with a brush, by the way, but I just happen to have a palette knife in my hand and I'm feeling lazy, so I can't be bothered to put it down. So we'll just make it work. So that's part of the attitude you want to get in your painting. If you're doing this sort of painting, if you're doing photographic reproduction, then you wouldn't, not necessarily the way you would start a painting. But if you want to get a bit of feeling in a picture, and you don't just want to reproduce something, which a machine could do quite well, then, you know, just go for it. Here's a thought, you know, there's some very, very clever, detailed painters out there. And some of the stuff that can be reproduced almost photographically is quite staggering. It's a very clever technique. However, this is where I possibly upset people. But you know, you get over it. Do you want to reproduce it like a machine would reproduce it, or do you want to get some poetry in it? You know, you can program a computer to write poetry, but it won't have the human element in it. It won't have the feeling and the emotion. It can only reproduce what's been programmed into it. Same with, somebody sent me a message, and I haven't really replied. In fact, I'm probably not going to reply to it. Somebody sent me a message saying that they'd found a computer program that turned photographs into paintings, and they felt it was the way forward for art. Now, I'm not quite sure where they get that idea from, but I can't really, I mean, I could reply, but I might be rude. So sometimes it's better if I just button my lip and let people get on with it. It's what they're missing is that it's reproducing their photograph as a sort of pretend painting. It's just simplifying shapes and adding texture. It's not actually producing art. It's changing. It's changing the data that's been sent to it and just shuffling it around with a few filters. That's all. Anyway, I won't get started on that too much because I'm not sure there's a point. Now, what I'm doing here, I'm putting this blue over the hill there, and it's one of these situations where do I need to justify it? Because it looks nice. If it looks nice, you know, carry on. There's nothing wrong with that. If it looks dreadful, think a way around it. But to my eye, that's working quite nicely. I've just added a little bit of oil here, just to take away some of the blue, so that you get a little bit of contrast showing through. But I'm always cautious when I say things like you have to admit, because no, you don't have to admit, but I'm going to do it on this occasion. There's not a lot wrong with that effect, so we'll leave it. The thing is, later we can come back and change it if we decide we don't like it. So now, this is going to get dramatic now, as if it's not already dramatic enough. I'm going to be Mr. Exciting. Excuse all the rustling sounds. It's one of the problems of having a really good microphone now. I think it picks everything up. You know, I've got to be careful not to belch, or worse. So I try to keep myself reasonably in control. But rustling sounds in the background are going to appear. So this is where, I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to do because you'll see it in a minute. and it might come as a shock. Don't you love the excitement? You know, one of the things about making YouTube videos is, for me anyway, is I really enjoy teaching. But I hope that it's reasonably entertaining, without being too embarrassing. But just imagine, no, silly thing for me to say that. If I just make a video that's me painting a picture, it's a little bit, I don't know, it seems to be too, or could be too formal and stiff. So I like to entertain. So I hope you find these entertaining. I know some people don't because they want me to shut up, but there you go. For those of you who are thinking that, let's just go through a quick way. You don't need to write anything. You don't need to say, oh, like someone did the other day again, you talk too much. So yeah, I know I talk too much, that's okay. But you know what? There's a volume control button. So all you got to do is twiddle it a bit and I'll go away and you can just watch. Now, you may ask yourself, what is Mr. Exciting going to do here? Well, I'm just going to do that. That's Japanese red, straight from the tube. The only thing I've done really is just add a bit of oil. And in fact, I want to get some more paint on, so I'm going to hit that with a brush. Just hope it's one that I've kept reasonably clean. This is just going to be a scrubbing on brush. So what I want is just to get a little bit of that in there. I put a painting on Instagram. Was it last night? I don't know. I think it might have been. I tend to put stuff on Instagram after I've gone to bed, because I have terrible insomnia at the moment, and I find that just a little bit of Instagramming when I get into bed usually will have the desired effect and knock me out. So I put up this painting and I'll put it on the screen around about now, and there it is. Now when I first put this on Facebook, maybe my timing was out, but it seemed to coincide with a lot of wildfires a year or two ago. And people said, oh, I don't like it, it reminds me of the wildfires. So, well, it's not meant to be a wildfire, it was meant to be a sunset or a sunrise. It can either be a sunset or a sunrise, whichever you want. And, but anyway, I've put it up now, and it seemed to be, somebody said they thought it was scary, but there you go. I'm not here to scare people. Right, let's get some of this. I'm going to get some of the red now down into the blue here. It starts to sort of do interesting things. See how easy skies are? I know it's like something disastrous has happened in the sky at the moment. That'll change in a moment. However, having said that, if you look at a painting by Turner, here's one. Okay, I rest my case. So, yeah. So, I put it on Instagram, and it seems to be okay. People sort of like it. They don't like it as much as some of the others. But maybe it's the colour red. I don't know. Although red, I honestly don't know. People's tastes change. You know, maybe it's all dictated by the fashion industry. We don't like red unless the fashion people are pushing red. Who knows? Right, so we've got some red on here, and it doesn't matter at the moment that I might go over the land a little bit. That's the beauty of this technique, which is sort of, I suppose it is glazing, really. It's, you know, I'm just putting on paint that's very oily. I don't want it to drip, so I'm sort of smearing it and spreading it around a bit. But, you know, this is sort of glazing. There's always someone out there who would disagree with that, because people get it in their head that glazing is something a little bit mystical. It's not really. I mean, it's And there's no one, before you ask me, there's no one recipe for glaze. It can be paint with oil, with resins and turpentine, not preferably not normal turpentine, you know, thinners, but genuine turpentine, which contains a bit of oil and actually does have a more pleasant smell than you know, white spirit. So yeah, the only thing I put in my glaze is some linseed oil, and that's it. So it's good fun. I mean, you can see there's something about my wrist, isn't there? You can see I'm having fun. That's the fun centre is just about here, actually, I think, because you get such interesting effects incredibly quickly. So this is I've smeared this so much now. That's what's on the paper, but hardly anything comes off. It's not exactly dripping paint, is it? So I'm just pushing it around just to lose any brush marks that might be in there. Not that I'm particularly worried about brush marks, but I know some people don't like brush marks, but you've got to learn to not be afraid of brush marks. Brush marks can be your friend, so use them to your advantage. So here we go. This is where it starts to sort of get interesting and you can play with stuff now. I know that over this hill here I've got a lot of white underneath that. And I think I've got a bit there as well. So I'm just going to reveal them a little bit more. So if I just really wipe this bit here, I can get that shock of light coming over the hill back again. In fact, I'm going to extend it up and across just a little bit. Let's have a little bit there. The harder I wipe, the more paint comes off, obviously, and the more interesting effects you can get. So I know under all this white here, this was very white, these clouds, so I can bring them back in little spots. So we have almost like a, you know, dappled sunlight in the sky. Don't worry about too much, or don't worry too much about where the light is coming from. The brain will figure that out. As long as you don't reverse things too much. In other words, some clouds with light hitting this side, some with hitting that side. Although you can get that in nature because it's the nature of nature. Sunlight bounces around all over the place. You may have light, well, for instance, let me demonstrate. We've got light hitting this cloud on the top here, and it's probably coming down behind and then hitting this cloud here. The light from that can bounce up to hit the underside of clouds up here if they are in the right place. Okay, so if you look at a painting like this and you think, well, you know, he's got his light directions all wrong, it's not necessarily the case. So let's have a little bit more there. These little spots of light are quite interesting, I think. Now, when I fiddle enough with this, I'm going to put some yellow in it. I've got to be a bit careful with the yellow because I put blue down here, and obviously I don't want too much green in the sky, even though you can get, obviously, you know what I'm going to say, maybe you do get green skies occasionally. And so don't be afraid of a little bit of green. Don't overdo it. I mean, you know, it's not bright, brilliant green. It's usually just a hint. So I've got some yellow now. What are we going to do with this yellow? Don't really know. Let's see. What should we do? Should we have some up in here? Why not? Let's have a little bit up through there. Now, you may think, well, he's doing that really quickly, he must know what he's doing. Well, I don't know. I mean, you know, I used to have to work fast as a visualizer years ago, back in past land. One of my jobs, I had to think quick and produce fast sketches for advertising campaigns, that sort of stuff. You know. And But you know, you can do that. Just to take yourself away from the painting and imagine that you're cleaning a window, and the yellow is the stuff you're using to clean it with. So all you're doing is going from there, there. Forget the paint, just dab, 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 dab. Follow the natural theme of the clouds that are showing through, maybe. But it is something you can do really quickly and get very fast results, as you can see there. So what I'm going to do now is get a little bit more yellow, and I think we'll just sort of do some turnerization over here. Let's have a little bit of that there. Yeah, it's an interesting evening, isn't it? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tone the landscape down. Down here, as you can see just a little bit there where I'm pointing, you can see sort of like strong contrast. I'm going to turn it into sort of more of an evening type shot. I'll move the camera in a minute so you can see down there, obviously when I'm painting that bit, otherwise there'd be no point in the video. But for now, that's all sort of slightly irrelevant. So let's have some little bits of yellow in there. Obviously the sky's something going on in the sky, which is you might at the moment you may be experiencing this, but in France here everything's got sand all over it. There's some storms down in the Sahara and blowing sand everywhere, so it's all over the car and all over the post box. So and it makes for some quite interesting sunsets too. So there we are. We've got a little bit of yellow going through there. I think I don't know. Maybe is it too much? I don't know. I don't think it is actually. I'm beginning to wonder whether there is such a thing as too much. Let's have a bit more here, I think. I'll worry about whether there's too much when the time comes to think about it, but I won't worry about it, if you know what I mean. No point in worrying, it's just the painting. I'm going to mix red and yellow. Not that you'll see much of the yellow, because Japanese red is powerful and probably just looks like red there. I'll have a bit of orange across there. What I don't want to do, and I'm always telling people this, if I do anything in the sky, which is like way behind these hills, okay, you have to remember that. The sky is one layer, and it's basically your furthest away layer, way back. So there's no way that this sky is ever going to make shapes that go round this hill. If you've got orange here, that has to go behind that hill. So don't fret about painting over the hill. You want an obvious line going through there. When it comes time to finish your painting, then you would take away the orange that went over the hill to bring the hill back into the foreground. It's pretty obvious, really. But don't make your clouds follow hills. So you've got a tree there. Don't make the clouds go around the tree. It goes behind the tree. It has to always go behind. That's the one, I suppose, major rule with skies. So, let's see what we're going to do over there and down here. So that might be the only orange bit that I'll do, because I want attention to go over there. Right, so I'm going to just pull back a little bit of this yellow, find a bit of clean paper, just get a little bit of white showing through there, I think. So don't forget, you think this is wild, just a reminder, take a look at this, the turner that I showed you earlier. Okay, hope you're still with me. Any minute now we'll be going down the bottom to look at the foreground, but I'm just wondering what I'm going to do. Do I like, I think I'm happy with that. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Here, there may be a bit of a dead spot there. And what I could do, of course, at this stage is just take the cloud effects a little bit further. Just clean my palette now. Incidentally, I'd like to take this moment just to say thanks to everyone that's looked at my Illusion of Detail video. I'm still sort of in shock 3 years after uploading that. I think it's 3 years anyway. It's just gone over 3 million views, which I never expected, I have to say. Came as quite a shock. But yeah, I don't know the exact figure. If I remember, I'll put it on the screen. But yeah, it's quite a shock. Quite a shock. I'm thinking on the top of what I've done here that I might add a few other types of cloud going through there, possibly. Just to give you an idea how quickly you can build up layers of sky and still keep the painting clean. You see, the reason I haven't got mud on here is because I'm not piling on lots and lots of paint. And these clouds that I put on will be muted in a minute, just slightly. So these are sort of, I don't know what you call them, feathery clouds, just the odd one or two thrown over the top. I think we'll have one or two down here, get a bit more texture in there. You see, clouds are fun. It's like, I don't know what it's like. I think what it's like, I'll tell you. But yeah, it's like think of it as just designing a series of colours that go on the top end of a landscape. Does that make any kind of sense? I don't know. See, whatever I do here, I'll make the landscape key in with it so that they actually work together. What I find, particularly for me, and this is a personal thing I think, is that when I'm doing something like this, I don't actually have to sit and plan and say, well, look, I'm going to put this colour in and this colour and that colour and that colour, that, etc., etc. And then how later will I work out how to make the landscape go with the skyscape? And some people do, and that's just their way of working. But to me, you see, that's like wasting quite a lot of time. I'm not saying they're wasting their time, it's just that it would be a waste of my time because I can do it much quicker on the fly, as they say. So if I can get moving and actually get the thing working, I can resolve it as I go. And it's just one of those things about how I work. Okay, so the sky is starting to get really quite dramatic. I might even put no, I won't. Are you wondering what I was going to put in? Well, you won't know, but it involved a large yellow object, and I'm not doing that because I avoid painting the sun. I don't mind painting where the sun might be behind the clouds, but to actually paint a sun, to me, is, again, it's one of those things, maybe it's just a personal thing, I just think it's a waste of time because there's absolutely no way that I can paint something to show you that something that bright. I can show how it affects the clouds if it's behind the clouds, that's fine, but to actually paint the sun, unless it's one of those rare low on the horizon suns where there's so much rubbish in the atmosphere that it's look-atable. In other words, it's almost like you're looking through incredible strong filters and you can stare at the sun. It won't cause your retinas to frizzle out. So Yeah, I avoid the sun, and who knows, I might put it in. Don't mind the odd moon. A little bit of moonery, that's okay. Let's have a few crazy streaks closer to the horizon there. Yeah, good. Okay, and I'll show you a before and after shot of this when we get to the end. Of course, you can always flip back to the beginning and you'll see what the painting looked like. But if I can, if I remember, see, I don't always remember. So these, obviously, the clouds that are further away on the horizon are going to be thinner and smaller. So that's something also to bear in mind. Fatter, thinner, because further away, closer to you, because they're over your head, coming over your head. You get that effect of them being bigger, just the right scale at the top, and you will give your painting a really walk-inable effect, so that you're almost looking up, straight up at the clouds, up here. Try not to do just a flat backdrop. Okay, now then, I think it's almost time to move the camera. But before I do that, I'm going to just go over it with a dry brush, just to take the edge off some of these clouds. I've just got to find the brush. Okay, here's one, never been used before. I'll do my usual, show you the trick. You buy a cheap brush like this. Don't do this to get the loose bristles out, because you won't get them out. You get the odd one or two, but you're only touching the outer bristles. The ones inside are staying put. Do this. When you do that, they stick up and they come out like that one. Just run your finger along it a few times and they'll poke up. The reason obviously I'm telling you this is because it's easier if they come out here than on there. Just do this a few times. They'll always probably keep coming out because it's an extremely cheap brush. But there we go. Right, dry brush. Hardly touching the painting. Just a skim. And there's a hair. Gotcha. Now, after a while, you see there's hardly any paint on the brush, almost nothing. But after a while, just give it a quick wipe, just so that you don't end up transferring paint from one part to another. All I'm after is blurring, not moving too much, not moving too much paint. That gives you a nice dreamy, soft edge to your clouds. I might revisit that bit over there, because there's something about that light just behind the hill that's quite alluring. There we go. Definitely changed. So I think we're almost there on that. The only thing, as I said, I'm just going to put a little bit of fresh paint just over the hip. Am I in the way? I think I've been quite good this time about getting out of the way. But it's very hard not to. I've got the camera set slightly to the side too, so that it's harder for me to get in the way. So there's that glow behind the hill, and all I'm going to do, wipe my brush a little bit more, blur it where it hits the edge of the hill, and then start to push it up like that, just a few quick pushes. Interesting. Now then, let's take it off the edge there and just across there. I think that's all I'm going to do on that. The next thing is to do the landscape, so I'll just shift the camera and I'll be with you in a second. Now, because I like the blue effect on the landscape, this misty effect here, I think that I'm going to keep that really vague at the moment. I might add a few little twinkles of light to maybe indicate distant buildings somewhere. Not that I particularly want buildings in my paintings, but it may work, we'll see. So I'm going to basically smear some blue on the landscape. I think I might just go a little wild with that. Let's just see what we get. I want to keep it reasonably simple, so I think we'll just sort of shove it on there, like so. Might do a little bit through there, and then I'll resolve. You see, at the moment I'm just throwing this on. There's a little bit of yellow there, so it's made an interesting green here. Doesn't matter. We just leave it, let it sit for a minute, and then over here, let's tone all this stuff down. Mustn't be afraid, you see. It's as I always say to people, it's only a painting, and anything you do to this is completely fixable, because what I'm painting over is bone dry, and that means if I make a boo-boo, I can just wipe back to the way it was when we started. So I think I might put a stronger blue down the bottom over on that corner. Not yet though. Or yet. Shall I do it yet or not yet? I think I might go for yet, which of course means, if not yet means later, then maybe yet means now. So I'm just putting a little bit of, as I said, stronger blue. This is phthalo blue. And the other stuff that I put on is royal blue. And I'm not following too much form here. I mean, I know what I've got underneath. So maybe I'll have stronger blue on that, stronger blue on this and that, and this, and also that. So down there, right, okay. Now, I have no idea how this will work. Of course, it may be complete rubbish. It's always good to say that when you're, particularly if you're doing a demo painting. It's quite quite good to occasionally say, well, now this may not work, as if you know, it makes you look slightly more clever when you fix it. But actually, you know, joking apart, this is not rocket science. All I'm doing, I'm at this point in this painting, I'm experimenting and sort of hoping it works, obviously, but not too bothered if it doesn't, because I'll think of another way if this is not successful. Got to be, you know, got to have a certain amount of resourcefulness. Keep yourself flexible so that you don't commit too much to it. Certainly don't get emotionally involved. In other words, if it goes wrong, you don't have to go and huddle in the corner and weep uncontrollably. And I'm just going to put some oil on the paper here, quite a lot. Okay, I've got a good glob of oil on there. As you can see, the effect that has is it completely removes the colour. I just want to tone that down a little bit there. Just bring that. I want to bring these darks out a bit more. The blue down in the bottom there, I'll change that in a moment. Some of the blues through there I like, some I'm not over happy with. Some of them are just a bit too strong. So in fact, what I'll do, and a nice clean bit of oil, I might bring that back just a bit there. You see, the fact that I put the blue on this and this means that I can take it away, but only take away a certain amount. I don't want to take everything off. I just want to get to the point where I leave enough on there for the effect that's sort of almost, is it subliminal? I don't know. That's not the word I'm looking for. Subtle. It's a subtle effect. Don't want it too in your face. I'm going to take some of that off the foreground. I like the trees disappearing into a bit of mist there. That's quite nice. Bring them forward a little bit. When I say bring them forward, I mean just make them slightly stronger. Okay. Oh, I'd just like to say thank you also. Lots of people have commented on my health at the moment. I have this congestive heart failure thing, which you may be able to hear in my voice a bit. It is quite exhausting. It is, in fact, I'd go as far as to say you don't know tired until you've had this chronic pain in the rear condition. It's horrible. But yeah, it's like you thought you knew fatigue. Believe me, you didn't until you get this. I hope you never get it. It's quite revolting. Anyway, some delightful comments from people. I am feeling a little bit better. It does slow me down on producing videos a little bit because of the effort some days just to be bothered to get out of bed, frankly, let alone stand up. But apparently when I was diagnosed, which was last November, I was at the level where the condition can almost be reversed, I think. It's all to do with the amount of blood that is pumped through your heart, and it's called the ejection fraction. And my ejection fraction was 43, and what you want is about, 50 to 60. It's never 100, 50 to 60 I think is the figure you're after. So hopefully when I get my checkup, which is on the sometime in the beginning of next month, beginning of April. Beginning of April. Hopefully things will have improved. I mean, I can definitely feel, I have slightly more energy, but it's a bit of a battle sometimes. But the comments I've had from people have really been encouraging, so thank you for that. Now then, that's enough about me. Let's get back to this. Let's talk about you. Do you want to learn how to do this? Well, I've decided that apart from the Zoom lessons I do, I'm going to start taking students here. So if you can get to France, because if you go to my website, obviously the link will be below. Go to my website and look for the page. In fact, that'll be down on the thing below anyway. If you go, you can send me a message via my website, and I'll sort of get back to you and get more information to you. I'm not taking on everyone because I just couldn't do it at the moment. And you can come for as many days as you want. It's best personally, and this is not just so that I make money, because it sounds really silly thing to say this, isn't it? But the last thing on my mind, quite frankly, is money. I'm quite happy just to survive and teach. I really enjoy teaching, actually. So if you want to come here, I'm going to be doing that. Like I said, there are lots of people inquiring about this, but I just cannot accommodate everyone. 2 years ago, just before the pandemic, I was doing almost a person a week throughout the year, which is very tiring. And I know I pretty damn sure I couldn't do that now. I think that would see me off. So I'll be figuring out who. Well, it's not as if I'm analysing you. I'll just be choosing one person per month, maybe. If things improve energy-wise, I might do 2 people a month, but probably it's going to be 1, I think. We'll see how it goes. Quite like this sort of spooky blueness. Do I even need to change that blue down in the bottom right corner down here? Got quite an interesting effect. And you can see how the stronger blue pulls that towards you. And almost immediately, as you go into the lighter blue, it starts to recede into the background. What do I do? Shall I shove a bit of brown in there? I think I will, just for the heck of it. Let's just see what happens. So yeah, so if you want to come here to learn how to do this, and I guarantee if you can, it doesn't matter whether you've painted before or not. Actually, I've had a good success rate with teaching people. I would say 99% of the people who come here end up, and some actually go from having never painted before to ending up with a painting that's in a couple of cases brought the person to tears, which is nice because it means that they've suddenly realised, wow, you know, there's something I can do that I had no idea I could do. Because if, you know, I honestly think if you're shown the correct way, spoken to the correct way, you will produce paintings like this. And I should say also, just to make something obviously blatantly clear, I'm not teaching you to paint like this. I'm showing you my technique and how simple it can be. And then after a while, and you may paint a few pictures that look like, you know, look like mine, but after a while you will use this technique and find your own style. That's the way it tends to go with painters, because it's simple. Nobody can paint exactly the same way as someone else. If I spent a few weeks practicing, I could paint a picture that looks as though Van Gogh might have painted it, but there'll be something in it that says, no, obviously that's not Van Gogh, that's not him, because he would have done this, this and this, you know. So, you know, you will find your own style. All I'm doing is giving people a little nudge to get them pointed in the right direction. Now that brown I've put down there is just a little bit of red ochre. And I obviously put it on with a palette knife. All I'm going to do now is just sort of push it around a bit and see how it mixes with the phthalo blue. It's actually mixing quite nicely. And then taking it back again so that it's got a slight red tinge to the foreground. That will bring it forward even more, and it'll also give a little bit of interest down there, because obviously the ground, if ever you take the time and trouble to go out into nature and look at land like this, it's never like, it's not a putting green. There's all kinds of colours and textures and things going on. So don't be afraid to just sort of mush it up a bit. Yeah, I'm not doing much there, just that. It's just to give it a little bit of interest. There we are. That may be it for this painting, I think. If I think of anything else to do it, I'll make a part 3, but probably not. Although having said that, now I look at it and I think, oh, well, maybe I could just touch in the odd little bit of light green in there, but maybe I don't want to. Maybe I should have a nap and then think about it afterwards. Right, before I finish, I just wanted to just do this, because I mentioned it earlier, and even though I don't have people and buildings in my paintings, there is a reason why I don't do that. I mean, it's dead simple, really. I've drawn and painted everything under the sun, basically, all my career. and I'm fed up with that. So I just want to paint simple nature, which is what I do now, almost as if people have never actually walked about on the planet. Just, you know, I suppose they're vegan paintings. Now all I wanted to do is just put in a few little things. In here, using a palette knife. I've got to make sure that I don't get this crooked, because I'm over to the side, you see, looking at a painting. If I went like this, chances are I would go downhill. So I'll try and do this carefully without getting in the way. But all I want is just the odd spot. In the distance. I mean, who knows what they are? I don't know. Could be water as usual. But in fact, let's have a streak that could represent distant water. Just something in there, just to grab people a little bit. And that's it. I really have finished now. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Hope you've learned something as usual. And I will see you on the next video. So look after yourselves, and bye for now.